this Friday morning, November 22nd. And as promised, it's time for the paper review with Dr. Constance Ikoku.
Good morning,
Adesua. Good morning, great
Good
to be
morning,
here.
Nkechi.
Good morning,
I can't believe it's November 20 already.
Yeah, 22nd. Christmas is in the air already.
It is,
Yeah.
you know, and it's Friday.
It's Friday.
So wonderful. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. Zenith Tech Fair 4.0 ends on a high as hackathon finalists get 77.5 million naira cash reward. That's a lot of money. ICC issues arrest warrant for Netanyahu over alleged war crimes in Gaza. Lagos 3.3 trillion naira 2025 budget prioritizes growth in tourism and economic affairs. Tinubu to IMF. Our reforms now bearing positive results. President Bola Tinubu spoke in Brazil when the managing director of the International Monetary Fund paid him a visit. The president did acknowledge that reforms have weakened the purchasing power of Nigerians. He, however, said that the government will provide social safety nets for the poor. The government also said that it will prioritize the welfare of the poor and vulnerable. I mean, it's hard to see how this is prioritized in this current economy. The poor have been severely beaten up in this country, but not only the poor, actually, everyone is feeling the heat right now, Nkechi.
Yes, and Tinubu acknowledging the obvious. It's just something that he has to do as president, talking about how his reforms have significantly weakened Nigeria's purchasing power. However, he also insists that, look, these reforms are starting to bear fruits. If Nigerians are tasting the fruits, that one is a discussion for another day. He also emphasized those safety nets. He spoke a lot about education, tax reforms, but I think the devil is in the details. When it comes to implementation, they have a vision of expanding the tax base without increasing taxes. Sounds great on paper, but implementation is very important. How do you go about implementing this when there's a reality of dwindling purchasing power? Then when it comes to the IMF's endorsement, so to say, of these reforms, I don't really have much to say about that. It just sounds like a good sound bite for the IMF. They also said, oh, look, we're supporting Nigeria with such and such loans. I think they spoke about that $1 trillion loan that they are giving for global economies, emerging economies post-COVID-19. But we know that loans always come with strings attached. So
exactly. Well said. I mean, the IMF did say that it will continue to support Nigeria. But bear in mind that there has been mixed reactions to the IMF support and interventions in Nigeria. There are those that think that we need to chart a different path. At the same time, the country seems tied to the organization because it needs those loans to fund budget and other programs and projects in the country. So it's a difficult path, Adesua, isn't it?
Indeed, and that's one of the conversations that countries who feel there's been an over-dominance and reliance on the dollar. Global market and Western market have been having, such as BRICS, trying to have conversation about the tax reforms, the global tax reforms, and how that impoverishes further the global south. Because these loans are expensive, they come with strings like Nkechi has mentioned, and it just digs you deeper in the hole. So they feel there should be a tax system where it's cheaper for developing nations to get these loans and truly develop. So that's a global conversation ongoing between the global south and the global north. That is there. But some of the reforms that President Bola Tinubu and his administration have been talking about and how this has been yielding fruit, the removal of subsidy, they keep reiterating how monies have been saved. If you look at the federal allocation distribution between the federal, states, local government, they have increased over the years. Well, over the last 18, 20 months thereabout, including the latest ones, latest amount that was shared.
Right.
And the government is saying that is as a result of subsidy removal. We've been able to save this amount of money. The states are now getting much more money. We're able to even push money for that into schemes such as the student loan scheme and then palliatives that are being shared. But has it really reached majority of Nigerians? That's another kettle of fish.
Right. The conversation continues. Daily Independent. Kwara Adamawa Kebbi FCT delayed decision on state police. That has been a controversial topic for many years, state police to be or not to be. Senate okays Tinubu's 1.76 trillion loan request. That's in naira, not dollars. NAS replaces death sentence for drug traffickers. In fact, this front page is packed. A lot of stories there that are important. 100 million Nigerian children at risk of climate emergency, UNICEF alerts. Reps reject 6-year single term for president. Then there is ECPA. Finnish police arrest IPOB Simon ECPA over terrorism charges. ECPA was detained in connection with violence in the southeast region. The police is seeking a court extension of the detention. ECPA has been questioned by the police before. We remember this is not the first time, and he was let go because this is a country of process. You can't just, take someone and detain them, forever.
Definitely.
Yeah, there has to be a process that leads to eventually having enough charges to nail the person, and that's where we are today. But the point is, he has been taking that intense reaction to that because he has been causing a lot of problems in the southeast region from Finland and Nkechi.
All the way from Finland.
Yes.
I think the challenge here now lies in that extradition that Nigeria is calling for. ECPA holds dual citizenship, right? Which gives this case some sort of levels of complexity. Finland's judicial system operates independently, and obviously extradition will not happen overnight. But I think Nigeria has sort of mounting evidence of his role in inciting violence, including tweets that he has been on X, well, he's been sharing on his social media, celebrating attacks on Nigerian security forces. And I think this arrest sort of underscores the potency or the importance of the diaspora as well in shaping narratives back home. The other day we were talking about that bill to allow diaspora people
voting.
have a voice and vote. This is just an example. This is someone who basically just uses his Wi-Fi. Yes. And just says, look, sit at home. Even though IPOB have distanced themselves from that sit at home directive, is still ongoing in the southeast. Yes. And I think this also is not just about Simon ECPA, right? He has some fund, he has financiers. And so I think there has to also be a deeper, comprehensive crackdown on whoever is backing or funding this agenda that Simon ECPA is on.
I mean, he has declared himself Prime Minister of the Republic of Biafra, which, so many think this is a mockery of the entire region. And he uses this platform to raise a tremendous amount of money for himself from the diaspora that are well off. At the same time, it also raises the question of the crisis in the region, whereby there's a sense that there is infiltration in the name of the so-called unknown government to destabilize the region. You can see that this seems like a deliberate, plan to cause, continue to cause mayhem in the region and complete destabilization.
Indeed, and that's what the Finland authorities are saying, that they've been able to establish some connection in alleged incitement of violence and terrorism. Simon ECPA, for instance, I think it was Christmas last year, thereabout, sat in front of a computer, did a video, asked people to go out and be violent. During the election, he also did a video asking people to kill, don't, in fact, that he initially said there will be no elections in Biafra region. The last time we checked, it's a country called Nigeria. There's no region called Biafra, but he did say there will be no election in the Biafra region of Nigeria and that people should go out and incite violence. Now, those sorts of things, and that particular video, according to the Finnish authorities, gained over 800,000 views. And so they are saying they've been able to establish a connection between Simon ECPA and inciting terrorism back at home in Nigeria, in southeast Nigeria, against people, individuals, the state. And so this arrest does seem different from what has happened in the past. They also connected to investigation way back as 2021. Now, you recall that in June of this year, the Chief of Defense Staff in Nigeria, General Christopher Musa, had said that the Finnish government was enabling Simon Ekpa to destroy Nigeria back home. And so, having this, I'm not surprised that the military is jumping at it to say, finally, perhaps you can send him back home and let him come and answer to the questions and queries back here. So, but you know what's interesting is that a lot of reactions to this arrest yesterday was that it's been long overdue.
Right. The power of social media we're seeing there, because he's living comfortably in Finland in his living room and causing trouble. The Punch this morning, a lot of stories as well. There's the Simon Ekpa story on the front page of the Punch. The PDP proposes or postpones next meeting in North Central, insists on chair, or North Central insists on chair. ACF suspends chairman as Afenifere others back president. This is in regard to the anti-Tinubu comments. The chairman, Maman Osuman of the Arewa Consultative Forum, had said government policies has so far impoverished the North and that the region's interests will be best represented by the North. The ACF, in a statement signed by the Secretary General, Murtala Aliyu, has now disowned Osuman. In regard to this, it says that he did not consult the members before this was said. I mean, intense blowback from this. It was fast and hard, and it seems that the ACF has thrown this man under the bus. He spoke from a communique that was released after the National Executive Council or Committee meeting in Kaduna State. Doesn't mean that no one saw this before he spoke publicly. It does seem like everyone is now dodging. I mean, what do you think, Kechi? I
mean, you said it all. They just basically threw the man under the bus. And I think the ACF, Afenifere, Ohaneze, all of them are now singing from the same hymn, basically. But I'll just say that, look, these divisive statements about North or South candidates for governing Nigeria just distract us from the urgent task at hand, rebuilding the country, whether it's education, whether it's health, social reforms, the economy. We have to just prioritize competence over geography. And I think the headline for today, or for this ACF saga, should be, look, hungry stomachs know no tribe in Nigeria. People are hungry, people are suffering. All this, somebody was saying, I think it was about the accusation about the Navy being involved in sabotaging the oil industry. Yes. I think Edward Buba was saying, look, there's no time for cheap blackmail, he said, or something like that. We just need to focus on the work at hand.
Right. You are right, Nkechi, that this seems like a distraction. There are so many issues begging for attention which have not received that required attention, you know, this time in Nigeria. So we want to be focused on more important things. Although you have to solve the political, you know, issues. If you don't solve your political system, then it becomes a problem for the economy and other sectors of the country this world.
You cannot pretend that they are not there. Yes. These are issues that are there. But I like how the Punch couches this in the story. Let me just quickly read it out. It says, however, the ACF, in a shock U-turn, suspended Osuman in a letter signed by Secretary General Murtala. In a really shock U-turn. I know you highlighted that to say, at the point he was reading this communique, was the communique not vetted? Yes. But whether they were part of it or not, is that shock U-turn that we are focusing on this morning. And I think that what the ACF has done, particularly in his comment relating to the 2027, remember he said the interest of the North will only be served by the Northerners. And that's what they're querying here. And I think that what ACF has done really is to not feed into that divisive rhetoric ahead of the 2027 elections, because again, we are way far away from polls opening on the election day for 2027. So let's focus on what's at hand.
But the alignments have started.
But the alignments have started, but the polls are not opening to 2027. In fact, IMF is yet to announce the dates for elections. So that's that. And then with all the other social cultural groups coming out, even the Afenifere, which is the Yoruba social cultural group, which had sometimes knocked the president on his policies, and now saying, no, we cannot be divisive.
I was surprised by that.
Yes.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the takeaway, really, the positive takeaway is that there has to be cohesion if we have to talk about development.
Right.
And this is not the time to be saying the North will serve only the North. It cannot happen that way.
All right, Daily Trust. Military seeks extradition of Finland, of Ekpa, as Finland jails him. There's also reps reject 6-year single term for president governors. The bill failed to scale second reading as it was rejected at the plenary yesterday. This bill also had provisions to recognize the rotation of power among 6 geopolitical zones, provide for all elections to be held in one day, and for the rotation of office of the president, state governor, and local government chairman among regions and zones. I mean, it means this bill is dead. The other thing is that we always throw away the baby with the bathwater, because apart from the single-year tenure, there seems to be other provisions that are that need to be considered. For instance, rotation among the 6 geopolitical zones, because power has always been a source of friction in the country.
Yes, I think on rotational presidency, on paper, it's sort of a move to ensure fairness, right? Inclusivity, giving both North and South their turn. But when you look at Nigeria in practice, the regional dynamics is just a lot more complex, right? What looks fair in theory could easily then spiral to, is my turn, is not your turn, just endless debate of whoever turn it is, really. And when you come to the idea of that single-year term, presidency, governor, I think their logic was straightforward, right? Get leaders to sort of focus on their work and not focus on campaigning for re-election. However, there's that counter-argument that I think is also compelling, right? When you have leaders, when they get into power, they spend sort of their first few months, learning the ropes, or in Nigeria.
1 year.
In Nigeria, yes, 1 year. I think in Nigeria, it's even more time perfecting sort of their networks, really, to even then use that single term to do what is needed for the country.
All right.
So I think that was dead on arrival.
Okay, let's look at Daily Sun. Senator Ifeanyi Ubah has been laid to rest, so it says here it is finished well. Federal government to continue prioritizing social investment programs. You still have that story, reps reject 6-year single term. Then NAS approves Tinubu's new external borrowing plan of $2.2 billion. Adesua, the president gets what he wants with this National Assembly very easily.
If you were surprised, if you were shocked,
no, I'm not.
Then there would have been a problem.
Yes.
Because when the approval went to the National Assembly, I think I don't think it was a surprise to anybody think that was a fait accompli, that the National Assembly was going to pass this. But to the merits, this money is needed to fund the 2024 budget. Like I always say, we should focus on what the issues are. Like, what is this for? What are we spending? And that's why some people will query the National Assembly's fast approval. Like, did you scrutinize what exactly is this money being spent for? Your oversight functions, is it going to follow properly to ensure that every kobo, every naira you have approved is being used for what it says it to be used for? Okay,
Citizen newspaper, let's go to the international headlines. It says here, black wealth growing. In a revelation that surprised economists, research has found that 82% of South African population now hold 57% of total household wealth. So let's look at the gap between the whites and the black. The whites hold 32% of household wealth and 19.7% of household assets, while blacks possess 57.3% of the total household wealth and 66% of household assets. Now, it's hard to believe. Let's also remember that, blacks are a majority in population. However, since the end of apartheid, this seems to be good news that we are seeing here from South Africa. I don't know, Kechu. This is what it says. We don't know in reality whether, but this is a result of a research.
It's a result of a research and a report. I think it's a positive headline that they have there. When I saw it, I didn't get the actual story, but I sort of understood what it meant. Just basically saying that gap is widening when it comes to black wealth growing in South Africa.
Yeah, it's getting better. Let's look at the Times. Trump's choice as Attorney General withdraws over teen sex allegation. That's the Times this morning. Matt Gaetz?
Gaetz.
Yes, Gaetz, a former congressman from Florida, said his nomination had become a distraction, hence his decision to step back. He was accused of having sex with a 17-year-old and paying other women to sleep with them. He denies all allegations. Wow, what a blow already. But at the same time, Trump has moved quickly to replace him with a Florida Attorney General at this time, and she's a long-time ally. What's her name again?
Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi. And you have to ask what happened to proper vetting before Gaetz was even announced on this one.
Well, so you see, Trump is picking those who are very loyal to him,
yes,
those who can get him recused from all the allegations that has been leveled against him and all the charges he has before the new year. And so that's why you've seen he has quickly moved. He has a long list of ally. Someone was saying yesterday, the credentials, you have to be associated with Fox News. You have to, you have to be loyal to Trump.
You have to be on his legal team.
So those are the criteria. But I think that this is not an embarrassment to Trump in any way. And with the kind of power we are seeing that Trump will wield, having the Senate, having the House, the judiciary. The only problem Trump will have is those within his party who are against him. And that was the major challenge for Gaetz. Even though he had left, he had resigned his seat, there were Republicans who thought he should not have been nominated. Okay. Although that report has not been released, but there are reports that it could be damning, and so Gaetz had to step down anyways.
Well, we'll see how that goes. The Daily Telegraph, Starmer supports arrest of Netanyahu. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is going to face the International Criminal Court. An arrest warrant has been issued against him, in addition to Hamas military leader Mohammed Daif. UK Prime Minister Starmer back to the ICC just said, you know what, the ICC is independent. We respect their decision. But at the same time, I think this is momentous for the it is momentous for the ICC. We've never had this before. Let's move to Daily Mirror. Finally, Kremlin warning to Britain: you are in the war. Vladimir Putin has told the United Kingdom that it's now firmly at the center of this war, having supplied missiles to Ukraine. Putin says now he has the right to use weapons against the West. Nkechi, and at this war at the same time, it's not clear, it's not certain how this is going to work out. How many battles can Putin fight? If he does, attack other Western countries, I don't know how this is going to go down.
I mean, I think it's a matter of perception. Even the way he sort of made the announcement, it reminded me of his national address just before that full-scale invasion that he did. He's talking about showcasing that weapon that allegedly defies interception. Now, I think Putin is not just flexing his military muscle, right? He's just reminding NATO that, look, me too, I have capacity for escalation. Yeah. So if you want to involve yourself in this war, this is what I can do. If he does it, I don't know if it's going to happen in reality. I hope it doesn't, but I think it's just about perception, just basically showing that, look,
I can bite as well.
Exactly. We can do this dance together.
And just like Trump, I think Putin is also one world leader that is unpredictable. For the longest time in this war, that is 1,000 many days into it now, Putin hasn't spoken much. And the only time he has spoken, he has said he's going to retaliate. He has said he's going to use nuclear weapons. Now, that's the fear, that this war, the dial has been switched with the weapons from US and UK now entering Russia. So fingers crossed, because you cannot say Putin may not act. He has been quiet for the longest. He does have allies, and he says he would retaliate. For the UK, I think that the Daily Telegraph this morning was overreaching with its headline, because it was a question put to the spokesperson of Keir Starmer, and they asked, should Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant come to the UK, would they be arrested? Right. And he sidesteps that question. He didn't answer. He just said, would respect the independence of the ICC. So Keir Starmer also has a Donald Trump to deal with in the new year as an ally, and Donald Trump would be so proud to support Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. So how will Keir Starmer navigate all of that is what I wait to see.
Okay, I'm afraid that's all we have for the paper review this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Constance Ikoku. This was just ladies this morning.
Oh, yes.
Hope you enjoyed our
Aren't we
show.
fantastic?
Yeah. Ladies, we do it well.
Yeah.
Keep it here on Arise News. Up next is the morning show. I am Kechi Nana.
Thank you so much for watching. I am Adesua Morin. Have a fantastic weekend. Goodbye.